Welcome to Creekside Chats with Successful Real Estate Investors, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital, promoting prosperity and harmony to help you flourish in all areas of life. Join in as we explore the motivations and goals of real estate investors and how their ability to invest abundantly has provided them with the time and freedom to contribute to the world in a creative and thoughtful way. Now please welcome your host, Dr. Allen.
Enlightened Investors, Dr. Allen here, and I can't wait to hear of Todd Dexheimer's incredible journey from high school industrial tech teacher to owning over $35 million in real estate assets in 5 states. So let's get right into it. Welcome, Todd.
What makes Todd Dexheimer the person that Todd Dexheimer is?
Obviously, it starts with my upbringing. My parents were very conservative parents. They weren't risk takers. They were just very amazing, hardworking people, the best of the best. And, they taught me a lot of valuable lessons. They taught me basically the type of person I am is because of them. I'm not quite sure exactly where the entrepreneurial spirit came from. My mom is a bit of I would love to do this, but I'm not quite sure. My dad is probably the one that says, hey, let's just work our 9 to 5s and we'll be good. I got quite a bit of the bug though, and the entrepreneur bug, and really wanted to do something. However, I did the traditional route. I ended up going to college and I got a degree and I was a teacher, and very traditional. Obviously, teachers are rule followers by heart. And so I was following the rules and I was in line, and it just wasn't clicking. It wasn't for me. It wasn't giving me a feeling of purpose and excitement and happiness. I just wasn't there. And so the entrepreneur bug bit again. And just reading books, I think really reading books and going, man, I got to do something. I remember telling my wife, we just had got married, and I was teaching, and I said, I got to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. And I thought about going back to school, and do I want to become a doctor, or what do I want to do? And ultimately, like I said, I was reading books and just listening to audio tapes and just dreaming about different things, and real estate and entrepreneurship just really grabbed me, and that's where I ended up landing. It took a while to go from being a teacher to doing this full time, a couple of years, but that's just where my heart was, my drive was. I don't know what actually poked me to be that entrepreneur. I can't figure it out, but that's just who I am. It just is.
Sounds like you had the sense to know that what you were doing was just not bringing fulfillment and satisfaction, which is a good insight. There are a lot of people who feel the same way you feel, and then they trudge through it for the next 30 years and do a disservice to themselves and probably to their students as well.
Yeah, I just felt I wasn't serving the greatest purpose I could. I just felt like I could give more. And it wasn't about it honestly was never about how much money I could make, because I wouldn't have became a teacher if it was ever about how much money I could make. Who goes, I'm going to become a millionaire? I'll be a high school teacher. You just don't think that way. So it was never about how much money I can make, how I become a millionaire or a billionaire or anything like that. It was I just feel like being a teacher, I thought was going to provide me this purpose, and I that was going to be my calling, but it just wasn't. It just didn't grab me the way you want something like that to grab you. And it was, I think as I was, like I said, I was reading and learning and growing, and just discovered there's a different way I can serve out my purpose. And it's not teaching. It's through entrepreneurship and through creating things and through creating opportunities and through creating a better living for people and that type of stuff. And granted, is the money nice? Absolutely. But that's not what drives me.
The field where your teaching field, I think, lent itself in a way that industrial arts is a creative field, and it's particularly a creative field that lends itself well to the flipping and that kind of industry. So
now I'm doing coaching too, and I coach other multifamily investors and how to do exactly what I do and the lessons I've learned. And quite frankly, my teaching background plays pretty well.
I also taught middle school and high school, and it was not for me, I can tell tell you. But there is a whole big difference in teaching and coaching people who come to you because they want to,
100%.
as opposed to they have to be there because their parents are making them there.
Yeah, they have to be there and they have no desire to be there. Yeah, anybody who's taught, so you understand just that attitude is just a totally different attitude from the person that shows up, that is excited to be talking with you. And that when you like talk to them for an hour, you give them great values and insights, and then they go and their minds are blown and they're like, this was an amazing call. Thank you so much. And then they go put that to action. And the next call they show up and they tell you everything that they did. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is why I do this. This is so awesome. Like you accomplished so much. I'm so happy. Where some of the students, now some students would like, wow, you did some amazing things. But a lot of students would be like, what is going on? Like, I've been working at you for an entire year and you just don't. That's a whole conversation.
A number of people that I've talked to and interviewed are high income learners, and I can understand how they can move their wealth reserves into real estate investing. Being a teacher, you didn't have that luxury of doing that. Talk to us about your journey from a teacher's income to developing a real estate portfolio worth over $35 million.
Look, Alan, it's all about your desire, honestly. It's all about what you want to achieve. All of this is possible with no money. Literally, you don't have to have money. Now, is it helpful? Absolutely. If I had $10 million laying around when I first got started, would it have been easier? Yeah, but I actually might have done a worse job because maybe I was going to be lazier too. I'm just thinking my money is going to buy me success. I didn't have that option. I needed to work my tail off in order to find success. And so we started with very little. My wife, bless her soul, allowed me to use pretty much our life savings, which at the time was like $30,000, to go and buy real estate. And we bought our very first property as a rental, and we used that as a down payment, our money. We also bought a house to live in and flip. We got a 203K loan, so we were able to put very little money down. And then I also bought a house to flip, and I bought that with a partner, and we brought in private money to do that. So it was just about getting creative. And honestly, I bought 3 properties all pretty much at once. That's how I got my training wheels off, was immediately buying these 3 houses and just starting. And I had to succeed. From there, I was able to refinance the rental property. I refinanced that. I pulled enough capital, all of my capital out and then some, to be able to do it again and to continue to do that. And that's kind of how I did. They call it the BRRRR strategy now. There wasn't a fancy, cool name for it when I was doing it. It was just called Figure It Out. And I was able to continue to buy more rental properties. I found private money, people that would find out what we did and say, hey, I want to be a part of that. Say, okay, here's how you can. And they would bring money in the deals, and we would do deals, and we started flipping them. I never really wanted to flip properties. It was always wanted to build a rental portfolio. But the flipping came out of necessity, because this was back in 2008, 2009, and lenders, they weren't lending freely. So it was really hard for me to get loans. So in order to continue to do real estate, I started to flip properties, and I was flipping and became very good at that. And I would get enough money to then go and buy my next rental. I eventually found some banks that were willing to lend. And that was through a ton of hard work and diligence. Most banks said, you're crazy and stupid and no freaking way am I going to lend to you right now. But a few that said, yes, we're great partners, and we were able to continue to build that rental portfolio all the way to where it's today. And again, it was through refinancing, through just being smart about that, through the flips, and then eventually through multifamily syndication, I started to form these syndications, which, just for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, I'm sure most of your listeners do, but just syndication is just pooling a bunch of people's money together that want to get involved in the deal. So that's how it evolved. That's the Cliff Notes version. We can dive into whatever.
It's an inspiring story. And like you said, anybody who wants to do it can do it. It just takes the determination and the work and the effort and the confidence that you can do this. And anybody can do it who wants to really apply themselves. You talked to us about how challenging it was at first, and clearly it had to be, and it took tremendous discipline as well as determination. But in your Cliff Notes, you make it sound like it was smooth sailing from 0 to 35 million.
Yeah, smooth.
I doubt that it was. So talk to us about a major setback along the road.
There's plenty. And some of the setbacks were, like I said, I couldn't find financing. And so I stalled out there. At the time, you could only get 4 loans in your personal name, and then you couldn't get any more loans unless you were really high net worth. And I just wasn't, or had high income, and I just didn't. And so I stalled out there. So I ended up calling over 100 banks and basically asking who is lending, and got a lot of, you're crazy, you're stupid. Like, this is whoever lends to you is going to go bankrupt, that type of thing. The responses from people, again, this is 2009 and maybe even 10. But I ended up getting a couple banks that said, yeah, let's do this. We like what you're doing and we're willing to lend. And obviously if appraisals work and all that kind of stuff. That was a big hurdle for sure. Was like, I had to push through it. I had to figure out how to get creative. In the meantime, I actually partnered with a few people, and they put the loan in their name, and then I partnered with them and we split the deal that way. So I was able to still get creative while I was stalled out in that area too. There's been a ton of other lessons and bumps and bruises along the way. Flipping days, contracts, and dealing with contractors and all kinds of stuff like that I've learned throughout the years. But you're going to have adversity. You've got to figure out how to get beyond it. You've got to, I think a big thing too is don't let it get you down. Don't take no for an answer. Just because that banker lady told me I was crazy, stupid, and I'm going to go bankrupt doesn't mean she's right. And honestly, that's people told me. It doesn't mean they're right. Just because I have a bad experience with the contractor, and the contractor, we sign a contract, they get in, they start, I give them a down payment, and all of a sudden they leave and they got $5,000 of my money and they did $1,000 worth of work. It doesn't mean like that's the end of the world. Just because whatever happens, you don't get a property, or somebody somehow backdoors you and you lose a deal or client or investor or whatever it might be, you just got to say, you know what, that's fine. That's just part of doing business. I'm going to push on and keep going. And I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm not going to take screw you as part of my business. That's just not it.
Where do you find the tenacity to deal with all the slam doors, the no's, the put downs, the disappointments?
I think you got to believe in what you do, right? You've got to truly be excited about what you do. You've got to truly believe in what you're doing. You've got to see the greater purpose of what you're doing. And if that all comes together, if you've got your goals, if your mind is set, you can do it. And knowing and understanding as you educate yourself to know and understand that this is the way forward, and there's going to be people whispering and people shouting along the way that are going to try to stop you, that just means you're doing the right thing. Yeah. And so there's always going to be times where you're questioning yourself or whatever, but you've got to have that plan, that vision, and you've got to push forward, and you've got to have confidence. And confidence is easy to lose. Every time I look at where my business stalled out, it was due to a lack of confidence. And once I found that confidence, I pushed forward, moved to the next level.
Can you think back to one of those very discouraging times and think about the specifics of how it is you worked through that? Was it just tenacity from within yourself? Were there outside sources of encouragement? Where did you look for to overcome those? But the most disappointing time when you said, I've had enough of this and I want out of this. Everybody has that moment.
No, I actually don't think I've had that moment where I said, at least in my real estate investing, my teaching, sure. And I did, but in my real estate investing, I don't think I've had that moment where I've said, I've had enough of this. I have had times where I say, it would be pretty easy if I just sold everything and just moved to the country and lived frugally and my family, we could live for 40, 50 grand a year, and I could live the rest of my days, no problem. I could sell one property a year, that type of thing. So I have had times where that, but then you go, well, what purpose does that serve? Who am I serving? I'm serving myself only. Is that really what I want to do? Do I really want to only serve myself? Do I really want to only affect myself? No, that's not what I want to do. There's been times where my confidence has waned and I've had to wake up. And I'll give you one of those instances where I went from doing a lot of flips to saying, you know what, look, I'm not going to do these flips anymore. I'm going to focus on rental properties. And so I was focusing on rental properties. I was buying these properties, these 20-unit buildings, 10-unit buildings, that type of stuff. And I'm buying these buildings, but I wanted to buy bigger. I wanted to reach higher, but I wasn't confident. I lost my confidence. And I don't know exactly why, like what got in my brain that I didn't think I was worthy enough to buy these 100, 200 unit buildings when other people were. But I hired a mentor, more of a mindset type coach, just a great person. And we were having this conversation and I was talking about these properties I'm buying. And then I was talking about, I want to work my way up to buying larger buildings. And he said, why not today? And I'm like, what do you mean? I got to be prepared. I don't want to lose investors' money. And he said, so what makes all these other people that are doing it, that have less experience than you, that have been in the business for less time, what makes them more special than you? And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. What makes them, like, why am I being scared? Like, why am I holding myself back? That's the only thing that's happening. And I bet within 3 months, I had a property under contract and closed a few months after that. And I had my first large apartment building and haven't looked back. And it's just, like, what makes everybody else so much better than you? Ask yourself that. And you can't answer it. You can't answer it. There's no answer. Yeah. You know? And if you can, then you got to adjust your brain.
Yeah, lots of brain adjustments are called for along the way.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end of our time, Todd. Thank you for being so authentic and real with us today. It has been an inspiring story, and I know that the viewers and listeners are going to benefit. Before we go, tell our viewers and listeners how they can connect with you.
Yeah, there's several different ways. I've got a Facebook page, Facebook group. The group is called Multifamily Mastermind. They're definitely welcome to join that. Please answer like the 4 questions that I have on there. Otherwise, I'll probably reject you. So I answer those questions. Love to hear from you there and join that group. I've also, they can go onto my website, venturedproperties.com, venturedproperties.com. I've got a newsletter. Sorry, not a newsletter, like an ebook, and it just explains a lot about multifamily, why it's a great investment, and also syndication, and kind of explains that whole deal. I think there's some really valuable information in there. And I've got a lot of blogs on there too. And of course, my podcast, they can find that on there as well. And my coaching, they can find there as well. So if they want to connect with me in any way, whether you're an investor, whether you're looking to have a mentor, or whether you're just wanting to learn about multifamily, come to my website, venturedproperties.com. They can find it all there.
And so, viewers and listeners, that's Pillars of Wealth Creation podcast and Venture D Properties.
Thank you for joining us on Creekside Chats with Successful Real Estate Investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. For more information, as well as access to our free ebook on enhancing your well-being through real estate investing, be sure to connect with us at steedtalker.com. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine and enhance the humane treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. Connect with us at steedtalker.com.